Hello everyone, welcome to back my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. At Billy's place, he chuckles as Sally chops and punches the pillows into shape. Since she knows tonight is important for him, she's determined to make things perfect. He's sure that if things go south, it won't be due to fluffy pillows. Thanking her, he kisses her before the doorbell rings. Billy calls the guests in. It's Jack with Diane on his arm. They look around at the place and admire what Sally has done to it. Billy says all the credit is due to her great taste. Diane takes the opportunity to tell her husband it's all about trust. Jack announces they are without a home, and his wife explains they had to move into the club while the house is being updated. Diane teases that living in the lap of luxury is no great bother. Billy admits that Diane reached out and asked for his blessing on the redecoration, but had no idea it was so big until he drove by and saw the construction crews. This immediately sets Jack off worrying. Trying to assure him it seems like more than it is, Diane repeats it's only a remodel. In a bid to calm him further, Sally explains that when she was working in home decoration, she was always surprised by how large crews were required to do the smallest things. When she mentions demo crews, Diane begs her to stop before Jack has a heart attack. Diane tells her husband that if he doesn't like the remodel, they can turn it back into the old and dated museum that he loved before. Everyone is relieved when Billy decides to change the subject. He thanks them all for being there at this turning point in his life. It feels like a new beginning, and he wants to thank his big brother for trusting and supporting him. They have had conflict over the years, but never because they didn't love each other. He's sure Jack loves and has confidence in him. That means everything. They toast to Jack and to Abbott Communications. Rising, Jack makes a toast. Even if his brother didn't feel it, he never stopped believing in him. He's always admired his determination and resilience after suffering more setbacks and disappointments than anyone he knows. Billy has always gone after what he wants with passion, creativity, and old-fashioned Abbott stubbornness. Jack is sure his latest project will be a great success due to his power to love and forgive. The brothers hug and Billy jokes that, after all that, he better not screw up. Downing the mood again, Diane asks if it's wise to have Phyllis be part of this. Billy claims she will be an asset and do all in her power to make it a success. Well, let's just hope this redemption tour is more successful than the last 100 or so, Diane snipes. Billy doesn't want to spend the evening defending his decision. Jack changes the topic to the launch, but this leads to his brother admitting that Phyllis left town to chase down some mysterious partnerships, and she's been impossible to reach. Jack starts to look worried, and Diane makes it worse. Leaping up, Sally declares the food is ready and leads Billy into the kitchen. Jack urges his wife to drop all the Phyllis trashing. Diane reminds him that his investment could be derailed by his ex. Did he even know she was part of this when he agreed to foot the bill? He asks her to drop this until they get home. Sally and Billy bring in some food, and Diane asks the redhead for a tour. After they have walked off, Jack apologizes for his wife, but Billy doesn't care what Diane thinks. Jack assures his brother he will trust his instincts, although Phyllis running off is alarming. Billy can hear that. Be careful, advises Jack. Nate is thrown by what Lily has learned. At Nate's penthouse, he has the champagne out for his cousins. They toast to the company growing and prospering. They've been working on a merger for 6 months and finally closed it thanks to Lily. Nate toasts to her getting them past the finish line. Devon adds she's the best there is. They are just thrilled she's back where she belongs. Lily marvels at how she ended up there after all that she had to go through. I guess Victor Newman was right. Damn him, she admits. The topic turns to Damian and Amy. Lily announces there are some things about his half-brother he needs to know. As she sits and sips her champagne, she explains she had Damian investigated after he pushed to meet with her. She wanted to know if there was more to the story than it seemed. Nate reminds her he never asked her to poke into his half-brother's past and wouldn't have. Devon is more concerned with what she found out. Pouring more champagne, Lily explains that Damian doesn't own the two companies he was purported to own. The real owner is a private company called Arabesque. Damian is a CEO of two companies, but they are owned by Aristotle Dumas. Devon has heard the name and explains that no one even knows what he looks like. Lily says he goes out of the way to keep his involvement quiet. She thinks that Damian lying about details like this is a big red flag and begs the question of what else he could be lying about. Nate wonders how Denise missed all this and asks how she found out. She tries to avoid answering directly, but is prodded into admitting it was Victor. Nate's furious that that man is anywhere near his business, but his cousin assures him he's not involved. They argue about what this Dumas guy has to do with this. When Lily admits she's had a few meetings with Damian, and that there's always been something strange about him, Nate repeats that he never asked her to get involved. She explains that Damian asked her out, and she agreed for Nate's sake, because she thought she could help with the Amy situation. I was trying to break open this box of lies he's been telling you since he came to town, Lily insists. Her cousin says that's all irrelevant. This is only about Damian and Amy. If his half-brother learns he was being investigated, he might be angry and leave town without giving Amy another thought. Lily apologizes. Her cousin knows she meant well. He's grown to care about Amy, and she's given him insight into a man he lost when he was too young. Besides, good or bad, he and Damian are still brothers and connected. His cousins worry about him being hurt. Nate can't stop worrying that turning to Victor will come back to bite them and scare Damian off. He begs Lily to respect his boundaries and keep out of this. Nate apologizes if he's come down too hard, but they get it. He's trying to give his brother the benefit of the doubt and assumes there is a good reason behind all his mysteriousness. Devon offers any help they can give. Leave it alone. Just leave it alone. I've got this, Nate requests. Damian and Amy find some common ground. Amy and Damian are at a table in the dining room of the athletic club. She announces she's ready to give him all the answers he asks of her. Damian isn't even sure where to begin. He orders them a pot of chamomile tea, assuming that is still her favorite. His mom is touched he remembered. Damian makes it clear that they are a long way from fixing things. She's relieved they can share a common memory and has no expectations of a quick fix. This is hard for both of them. It broke her heart to learn that he thought she didn't care about his father when he was dying. Amy can't stop thinking about how afraid and alone he felt. She took advantage, assuming that he could handle more than he could. He admits he was only taking his own feelings into account and is sorry for that. Tearing up, she thanks him for that and says that if they can mend even a little of their hurt, she will die happy. Once the tea arrives, she smells it and smiles, remembering his cat, Figaro. They hid the feline in the house so they could gently break the news to his dad that they had a pet. But as soon as Jackson met him, they were in love. After Jackson died, Figaro wouldn't leave his room. Damian misses that man too. Amy says that he was his father's world. They had an unbreakable bond from the moment they met. They recall the day he was born and how he nearly had to be delivered by the side of the road. His dad was there when he was born and was the first person to hold him. The look on his face was absolute love. Damian gets her to swear Thath never knew he wasn't his biological father. Once she does, he says he never sensed for a second that Jackson suspected the truth. Keeping the secret weighed on her, but his father was so connected to him she couldn't do it. She could never tell Nathan either. That would have dropped a bomb on his family. Amy hoped her shame would go away, but it didn't. When Jackson died, it was like a burden was lifted. Her lie was safe, and she thought she could die with the truth. However, something changed in her when she got the cancer diagnosis. After discovering she was dying, she didn't want him to be alone in the world without knowing he had a family. Amy never thought that telling him the truth would go well. She expected him to be angry and hurt, but hoped he'd reach out to Nate. As hard as this has been, she doesn't regret a moment. She's still hoping he will forgive her one day, even if it's after she's gone. They had a strong bond once, too. He can't deny that. His childhood was great until his father died. That was a terrible time. First, they lost Jackson and then each other. Amy always thought that she and Jackson would grow old and wrinkly together. She wasn't ready to lose him and didn't handle it well. Neither did I, Damian admits. His mom promises to do anything to repair the damage. When he tells her he's willing to try, she says that's all she needed to hear. Their food arrives, but she doesn't eat much. He assumes that's because of her leukemia. Amy tells him that it's a battle. They talk about Nate setting her up with a new oncologist. Amy isn't holding out for a miracle, but her son urges her to be positive. She'll go and see the latest doctor if for nothing else, but to satisfy Nate. She's made peace with God and with her son. That's all the miracle she needs. Unexpectedly, she's gotten close to Nate, and he's a good man. Immediately, Damian starts asking how well she knows the rest of Nate's family and makes a show of forgetting Lily's name. She doesn't know much about them but adores Audra. As he eats, he asks if the cousins are good people who can be trusted. She hopes this curiosity means he wants to get to know his half-brother better. Jack admits his doubts to Diane. When Jack and Diane arrive at the entrance of the athletic club, she assumes he's still mad at her. He concedes that he's as concerned about Phyllis as she is, but he wants his brother to feel encouraged so he can fly. Flying anywhere with Phyllis is bound to end in a crash landing, she says. Back at Billy's, he and Sally clean up, and she declares the evening a success. He asks if she thinks he's making a mistake with Phyllis. After a deep sigh, Sally admits that Diane had a point, but only he can decide how much of a problem this is. Billy concedes that something is off about this. Phyllis must know this is her last chance, so what could be happening? He wishes he could talk to her. Are you worried something happened to her? She asks. Thanks for watching this video, and please subscribe our Update World 24 YouTube channel for more update news.